You know, when you're in a fight with your partner and the moment that you know you're clearly right, no debate, you have the facts, the receipts, maybe you have the PowerPoint in your head. So why would you even take the blame? Well, today we're talking about one of the toughest relationship questions. When should you take the blame, even when it's not your problem? The answer in this episode may surprise you, it may irritate you, or it may open your eyes. And all of those responses are welcome as long as you consider the main thing I'm going to tell you and the reason for them.
Welcome to the Love Conscious Relationship Podcast, where our host gives her expert advice about relationships, communication, connection, and intimacy as she explores ideas about how to share, respect, and validate your partner with one loving experience at a time. Now let's welcome our host, therapist and relationship expert, Jessica Myers-Adams.
Hey there, welcome to the Love Conscious Relationship Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Myers-Adams, and today we're talking about when should you take the blame. And I told you that your response to this could be a couple of different things. You could be irritated because the short answer is that we are always to blame. Always to blame, meaning we always have some accountability. And the way that I'm going to describe this might surprise you because I'm certainly not going to say to you that you should tell your partner that you are wrong every single time and hands down. But I am going to tell you in this episode why it is the number one thing that I tell my clients, and the number one thing that I really believe is that if we can find the problem that we own, then we can start working on the solution. So this isn't necessarily about blame, but it's about being able to resolve things. Because as I've heard from my clients, one of the number one things that they want, they'll say they want communication, they'll say that they want connection, but they want to be able to resolve issues and feel like their partner is their teammate. They want to be able to resolve issues so they're not walking around on eggshells. They don't want to be getting in the same fights over and over again. And if that's you, then this is going to be really helpful for you. So today I want to go over the intro, I would say, to the steps to resolve things, because I think there's so many things that can go differently when we're trying to resolve issues. So I'm just going to give you the principles, the steps, the principles of the steps. And I might even do the next episode on the actual steps to resolve things, which might be a little bit more detailed. So we'll go over the steps to resolve things. And then we'll talk about, what I previously said is when should you own things and what kind of blame should you take? Because the short answer is you should always take some blame. And before you just turn this off and say that your partner is, doing all these things, just hear me out on this one. So let's jump into the principles or the steps to resolve issues. The first step in this intro part of this is that we want to make sure we know our position, and we want to know our partner's position. Like, I don't think we should do this, and they think we should do this. So we want to make sure that we have the position that we're both understanding what the fight is. Because a lot of times couples get into these fights and they don't actually know what they're fighting about. Are they fighting about the fact that you said something with a tone? Are they fighting about the fact that they disagree on how much money they should spend, or how they just treated how one of them treated the child? What is the position that you are taking? The second thing is that you want to know that they are different than you. So they think differently than you. So you're going to have to spell out exactly what you're saying. Give you the example of, I had a client who they were fighting with their partner about how much money they should save. Well, they weren't, let me be specific. They were fighting about saving money. And the one who wanted to live a little bit more in the today said, we can't save all of our money. And they were hearing we should save all of our money and not do anything. And so when I helped the wife get clear on her position and spell it out a little bit more specifically, she could say how much she wanted to spend and what things she wanted to cut out, because she was really blending it in. Like, anytime there was money spent, then she would have a problem with it because she wasn't clear on her concern. Her concern was saving X amount of dollars and not specifically spending on some things like sodas at the convenience store that are like $2.30 now and things like that. So can you get specific about what it is? And I would say this takes some time, but I'm just giving you the principles. So the first one's the position. The second one is know your partner is different from you, and you're going to have to give it specifics. And then the third part is to be turning towards your partner and asking them what their position is and trying to understand specifically what they are saying and what they are wanting. Now, why I'm bringing this into problems, why I'm bringing the problem solving into responsibility for blame is because if you and your partner are in a tense moment talking about who is wrong for what you said, I did not say that, and they're going to say that you did say that. Well, it's going to be really hard to say, okay, be curious. That's, the third principle. How am I wrong? That is going to be really hard. You may think that you can listen to that. You can really think you're going to be solid and you're going to be regulated. But as soon as they're telling you why you're wrong, the problem is your protective part is probably going to show up and take over, so it's not going to help with, getting into this debate about who is wrong. So I'm not going to get into should you take the blame for if your partner says that you said it was Saturday and it was actually, Wednesday or Sunday or, what day it was or, those kind of things. Get your receipts and your calendars out and all of that stuff. What I am going to tell you, though, is to take the blame on this. When your partner says that you were wrong, I want you to think about what your problem is. Well, for me, whenever I have a problem, the problem is usually pointed at the other person when in fact it is my problem. I'm having a problem being misunderstood right now. I'm having a problem with wanting to talk when my partner is shut down. I'm having a problem with my communication. And so here's where I say we take the blame for everything. One of the most powerful things I think that we can do in our life is to take accountability for how we're thinking and feeling. And this gets really blown out of proportion because a lot of people understand this kind of as a concept. And even my spouse has said it to me, I can't make you feel or think a certain thing. And so when people say that, it's really triggering and they don't really fully understand it because they're probably not doing it themselves. The principle here is that whatever is bothering us, if we can identify what it is for us, we can start to work through it. And so when I say we need to take blame, I think what's the saying? Full lock, stop, lock, barrel. I don't know how to say that, but like hands down, it is our responsibility. It is my responsibility when something comes up to figure out how to work through it. And the thing that I always talk about, one of my biggest problems that I have is I need to be understood. That's a big problem for me. And I'm not saying that these problems are bad. Problems are not bad. They seem bad, but the solution is coming if we can get to it. Like I have a leaky sink. That is a problem I have. And then so if I can figure out what the steps are to, call a plumber, get that figured out and fixed, great. But if I want to say, you messed up the sink and, we live in a house that is old and, you don't get into, I have a problem here. We're not going to be able to solve it. I give my clients the, rapid results coaching clients I give them this binder and it's got like 30, 35 pages in it. And when we get to this, I don't know what pages, I'm going to make it up and say it's on page, 7. And there's this line when we're sharing a problem with our partner, or we're sharing, I shouldn't say problem. It's going to be a problem in a minute. When we're sharing a concern with our partner, I say to them, this right here, this principle we're going to read in a second is the most important line in this whole binder. I think in the program that I work with couples in the 6 months or the 3 months or the 2 days they might be with me, this is the most important thing. And it says that I own this problem, no matter what it is, and it's up to me to verbalize it, and it's up to me to figure out why I have it. It's in a nutshell, that's what it says. And what it is saying is like if, you're having a hard time with something your partner is doing, can you just stop to figure out what is going on for you? And the example I give all the time is my spouse and I love to vacation. We're actually leaving today. I'm trying to get out 2 more episodes to make my 52 episodes for the year, make sure I have them before I leave. We're leaving for 12 days. And one of the things when we go on a road trip is that I like to catch up and talk, and it's the way I feel connected. And for years, my wife and I would get into these fights because she would turn on the radio and she would start singing. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I would just feel so lonely and disconnected because I was like, we didn't even talk yet. We haven't seen each other because we've been working. We've been like trying to get all the things done for, for vacation. I'm trying to set up my voicemail for, away messages and, trying to do the last podcast episode, whatever it might be. And I found out I have the problem with, I need to talk and have some dialogue to feel connected. And of course, you might say everybody needs that, and we do, but we have it in different amounts or different levels or different times that we need it. So my problem was I needed on the beginning of vacation to feel like we're going together. There was something about that. And so when I was able to, instead of saying what I would say, you never want to talk to me, you just this, and and just like, or just get resentful and shut down, that wasn't me taking the blame. It was giving the blame rather than taking the blame. So I had to realize that I have that problem, and then I could start asking for what I need and telling my wife what I needed. And now it's like a thing where she'll say, do you want to talk? And she'll turn off the radio. It was even, I would say, I want you to talk to me. And the problem that I was having there is I have a wife who doesn't always have things to say. And she said, I don't have anything to say. And I hear that from a lot of my clients too. Their partner wants to talk to them and they have nothing to say. There's nothing in my mind. I have nothing. In fact, I just had that this week with a client. Her husband says, I don't know a lot because he really doesn't, he's not thinking at that moment. And she's going to have to ask good questions. I'm going to have to ask good questions or give a topic. So I hope this is making sense. The problem is the thing that I'm struggling with, and can I own it and take blame for that? I'm the one that's blamed for having a fight in the car because I want to talk. And so if you're feeling like your partner is picking on you, or they're, doing something to you, can you figure out what it is for you? I have a problem with when I get corrected, or I have a problem when it's, I feel like I'm being misunderstood. These are some things that you can start to really take the blame on. And so blame me. Yes, I am to blame because I have these problems. And I think if you can get willing to take a look at them, and so what does this mean if you're in I said that, I didn't say, you said that, I didn't say that kind of back and forth? Can you just pause for a second and try to figure out what is the problem you're having? And what is your position? Because if you want to go back to resolving the issue, you want to make sure that you have the position. Can you manage your emotions to step back and just say, we're fighting about something that really doesn't matter? I mean, and then that's so easy to say, but does it really matter? Stop it and say, okay, I don't know if I said that. I think I said it. And I will say to everyone who's listening, and a reminder to myself, because I do not like to be that I was wrong about date or receipt or whatever it is. And I remind myself and everyone listening that doesn't really matter about those things. In the big picture, can we step back and figure out what were we talking about? What is it that I want? Do I really, am I really so invested in one of us being right about, what day the thing was or whatever it was? And can we get back to what is the thing we're trying to solve? Are we trying to save some money? What were we talking about when this conversation initially came up? And this episode isn't necessarily to help you take a pause. There is an episode for timeout, and I would really suggest listening to that if you're thinking this doesn't help me when we're in this bickering. You said this and I didn't say this. I'm saying the point of this podcast is to take the blame about any problem that you have. And I am saying pretty much always you have a position. And I'm going to give you 3 examples. I just made that number up. I'm going to give you 3 examples, or I'll come up with them right now to tell you that even in the worst time, you're to blame. Let's say, God forbid, your partner lied to you, cheated on you, did something terrible. Are you to blame? You're not to blame necessarily for them doing that. That is wrong, and I'm not, condoning somebody cheating. I will say, if you decide to work on it, the blame that you're going to need to take is that you I have a problem that I can't sleep. I have a problem that I can't trust. I have a problem that my mind is racing. These are all things, the problems that we can own and take the blame of, right? Because when we're pointing the finger at the person who hurt us, all we're doing is staying stuck in that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't tell them it was wrong and how you were hurt. I'm saying, though, if you want to heal and resolve the issue of the betrayal or hurt, you're going to have to take blame for having a hard time forgiving. So that's the blame in that one. That's the first one. Let's say that your partner rolled their eyes at you and they hurt your feelings with that because you were telling them something serious and they rolled their eyes. The problem that I'm having in that instance, because I can raise my hand on that one, is that I'm taking that personally. I'm taking their expression, because maybe they're not able to verbalize it as well as I could, because I don't think I really roll my eyes. I say mean things and do kind of things like that. But when someone rolls their eyes at me, I might take it personally instead of I have a problem with getting curious about that. And I have a problem taking things personally. Again, not saying it's okay to do that. But my friend actually recently, and I'm going to go on a tangent for just 1 second here. She was telling me that there's a difference between people who use their right brain and their left brain to process things. And the right brain is the part that's a physical expression of emotion. So it's maybe an eye roll, or it's a person who gets like, they can feel when they're anxious, like really in their body. Opposite of me, I'm using my left processing verbal brain, which explains with words. And so if you think about it, one of the problems I have with an eye roll is that my right brain, the physical part, can see that, and then it makes explanations of why that's happening. And so just to point out, like if you're getting offended by things, the problem might be that you're lacking the skills to resolve it. You're lacking the skills to work with your partner and figure out why is this happening and being able to talk to them. You know, if you ask them why they're doing it, are you yourself calm, or are you yourself taking it personally and, kind of flipping out at them? So that's, if you get yourself upset because of somebody's right brain physical expression, that might be your problem. And then let me think of the third one I usually give, which I'm now going to give because I'm trying to think of a third one. If your partner makes a mess in the kitchen and they don't clean up after themselves, then you have a problem with lack of organization, or maybe you have a problem with having a messy kitchen. And I might not even call it messy, because what if they just left something and, another person comes in, they wouldn't see it as messy. They would see it as a thing not put away. Your problem is, I have a problem with dishes being in the sink, or I have a problem when I see one glass on the counter. So check out what your problems are. See if you're open to take blame for all of these things, and leave me a comment. Leave a comment on this page. Tell me what you think about taking the blame for everything. So I'm going to finish packing. I may be able to do episode 52. This is episode 51. If I don't, I'm going to put it on a replay of a different one so that I have 52 episodes straight in a row every week for the past year. And if I have to do that, which looks like I'm going to come back and do episode 52 in 2.5 weeks after I get back from China, running a marathon on the Great Wall of China. And we'll be back after that to make sure that 52 episodes have been done for how you can improve your relationship, how you can improve yourself. And again, leave me comments. I would love to know, are you enjoying the podcast, and do you want it to go into year 2? So until we talk again, blame.
Thanks for joining us on the Love Conscious Relationship Podcast. If you like this podcast and heard something helpful, make sure to send it to a friend and leave a review about what you liked. For more daily doses of relationship truth, follow Jessica on our socials and TikTok at Jessica Relationship Visionary.